Čaute, dneska nás čeká docela zásadní video ohledně toho, jak je třeba misinterpretovat, dezinformovat společnost ohledně alternativní kosmologie. Takže za to děkujeme panu Látalovi, který nám přivezl tuhletu skvělou příležitost tohle dostat na veřejnost. No a ten hlavní důvod, proč si já myslím osobně, že se to děje, že v tom není nic osobního, že to je ten problém, že žijeme v době, kdy věda se uctívá jako náboženství. Jsme v době scientismu. Prostě věda už se nesmí zpochybňovat. Vědecké fórum tak má ty brány, peer review, kdy může kontrolovat, jaký názor se dostane do veřejnosti. Máme osobní svědectví mnoha vědců, mnoha profesorů, který vám mohou potvrdit, že jejich názory v momentu, kdy byly v rozporu s mainstreamovým názorem, tak nebyly publikovány, byly cenzurovány, byly vyhozeni z vědeckých akademií, byli dehonestováni, jako například profesor Robert Bennett, 94 let, 50 let v oboru relativity a éteru. A tenhle ten člověk je ignorován a dehonestován jako nějaký pánbíčkář. Na inteligentním designu není nic zvláštního, protože naše nebesa fungují jako perfektní hodiny. Každopádně, podívejte se, o čem je moderní věda. Není to nic jiného než náboženství. A ateisté, tak jsou ty největší věřící.
We have a saying in science, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. So I am now going to make a wild, way out, extraordinary claim. The world is round. So, the process of testing claims, the world is flat, the world is round, is what we call science.
And you can go out and test this stuff for yourself, which is the beauty of FE. And now this is what we see when we look out at what is referred to as the horizon. This is just a time lapse throughout a day. We see the horizons constantly moving. Now we know that this is not an actual position that we're seeing, right? This can't be the leading edge of a sphere physically blocking things in the distance. The Earth is not shrinking and expanding throughout the day. The horizon is just an apparent location. This proves it, as does any observation. The way this started was people started making observations and they realized it wasn't adding up. It wasn't matching the predictions of the globe. And what we were told was,
it's not okay to say that the Earth is flat. It's not okay.
Flat Earth is so stupid. It's been disproven thousands of years ago, and it was disproven because a couple people stuck sticks in the ground and people just looked out and saw boats disappear.
The farther away a boat is, the more the bottom of the boat will disappear, and you'll basically just see the mast of the boat.
See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears.
Beyond your horizon.
And that's because the boat is actually going over the horizon that's
curved.
That
wouldn't happen if the Earth were flat.
Well, what did we do? We went out and we looked at the boats. Sure enough, they disappeared. Then we pulled out our binoculars, we could see the boat again. And then it would disappear. And we could pull out P900 or P1000 and see the boat again. What does that prove? It proves that if you were to make the erroneous assumption that when it initially disappeared to the naked eye, it was due to curvature of the Earth, you would be patently wrong, right? Objectively incorrect. Isn't the case, whether you think it's the case, want to believe it's the case, you heard it was the case, it's just provably not the case. Everyone can go and check it. Important to remember what the first claim was. Okay, you can go out and see the curve of the Earth. We were then shown pictures over the ocean, right? And we were like, they were saying that's the curve of the Earth. Look how the bottom of the buildings are missing. Look how the boat goes. We're looking at the curve of the Earth, the actual position of the curve of the Earth. Horizon is the curve of the Earth. Okay, so that's what we were told. And I want you to pay attention to how this conversation has progressed and just use a little bit of wisdom, pattern recognition, and discernment to realize that when someone is telling the truth, they are going to stay consistent. They're going to remain consistent. Someone that is representing something untrue will have to constantly shuck and jive and update and change the position. When something is cemented in, supposedly verified for thousands of years, this should never be the case.
I have a memory. I'm not a broken sheep. I'm not a goldfish. They told me that the boat goes over the curve, and that's why you can only see the mast and all that. They gave me one lie, and then I said, well, I can see it now. I can zoom it in. Oh, the light bends. So it never was the curve then. When I was a kid, you never said the fucking light bent. You said that was the curve. Well, now, oh, so in the 1990s, you didn't know? So show me where you guys learned that it wasn't a curve, that it's actually because the light bends.
Position updated to, oh, well, you never see the actual curve of the Earth because there's an atmosphere on the Earth. There's never a time you can look over the Earth and there be no atmosphere, so of course it's always the apparent position and it moves around. Well, that's not what you first told us. You first told us, stupid flurf, you can go out and just prove the Earth's a ball by looking at the horizon. That's the curve of the Earth, and it blocks things in the distance because it's a physical, tangible, geometric location. Okay, so that has changed. The stupid flat earthers have made the entire interpretation and understanding of the globe Earth evolve and change. And that's just a fact, right? Regardless of what you think of the Earth, what I just said as a fact, it speaks volumes.
And not everybody can be a robot polisher.
Now, if you have a claim that can't be tested, that's what we call pseudoscience. The difference between pseudoscience and regular science is whether or not you can test.
What is science?
People don't know what science is or how and why it works.
Science is built on questions.
Everything here began with questions.
If anything is scientific, you should be able to question it and someone would give you an answer.
Boldest question scientists have dared to ask.
It's only through asking questions, forming hypotheses, and testing those hypotheses that we know what's real.
Is the Earth flat or round?
It's not okay to say that the Earth is flat. This is some sort of strange denial. I don't know where it comes from. The boldest question scientists have dared to ask. Apparently this is something that we're debating. I have no idea why. The boldest question scientists have dared to ask. And it's not okay.
The boldest question scientists have dared to ask.
The difference between pseudoscience and regular science is whether or not you can test it.
As in, if it's true, you can replicate that experiment and you'll get the same result.
You cannot recreate the speed that we're going to on the ground. We're much faster than the speed of a bullet.
Bullets move so fast that they can't be seen with the naked eye.
No aerodynamic or aerothermal test facility can recreate the conditions that we will see.
Something that could never be accomplished in a laboratory here on Earth.
That's what we call pseudoscience.
Okay, so I have not debated anybody about this. My feeling is that I won't debate the science when you debate the science, because the science has already been debated in the scientific system.
It asked you to debate one of them flat Earth guys.
No, I don't. I can't. No.
We talked about it, and we were gonna have him on Skype.
No energy to fight all of that. I just teach people sort of how to think. Train your mind. That is something that should not be debated. Does not belong in front of an audience getting debated.
You're not supposed to question the science. That's not science. That's dogma. That's corporate propaganda. That is totalitarian shoved down your throat so hard you can't breathe.
There's a conflict between science as a belief system and science as a method of inquiry, which is about finding out what we don't know through systematic inquiry, the experimental method, hypothesis, and so on.
500 years of modern science, it was much more about gaining control than about anything else.
Science is an asset we have.
The science is agreed upon.
The debate is over and the science is in.
We own the science and we think that the world, should know it.
That's how science works.
Exact opposite of science.
Need science. Science has such an important role because it distinguishes between believing and knowing.
Science delusion is the uncritical belief in these dogmas, treating them not as beliefs but as truths.
The cult of science.
Coming out of a university with a master's degree or a PhD, you take them into the field and they literally don't believe anything unless there's a peer-reviewed paper. It's the only thing they accept.
The scientific system of peer-reviewed papers, that's how science determines what is right.
Peer review has nothing to do with the scientific method. We got along fine without it. Peer review isn't even peer review. It's something called peer injunction, where your peers can stop you without shorting you. I'm happy to bet against you in all sorts of things that you're doing. And if you win and I lose, I'm on an unbounded negative experience. But if I block you, and I won't short you, that's saying that I think you're dangerous, because it's too dangerous to go short. And the idea that we're handing old people and established people and very politically savvy people the ability to block you without shorting you is unforgivable.
I think it's pathetic, and to kill ourselves because of stupidity.
Science!
And not everybody can be a robot polisher.
What it is actually
is a pagan faith, and it's killing people.
So we need science, and that's why really we need trust in science. That trust is decreasing tremendously, and that should worry us.
Something I've been wrong about for decades.
No.
So, this is Earth as we've been taught to think of it from childhood.
Right.
Now, Earth bulges. We are about 5 miles wider across the equator than we are pole to pole.
Okay.
Not only that, a slight detail, we are wider just below the equator than at the equator. We're not a perfect sphere. It's a spheroid. It's an oblate spheroid.
Okay.
And we're slightly wider below the equator, so we're a pear-shaped oblate spheroid.
Gotcha.
Okay?
All right.
Pear-shaped. I calculated this.
Okay.
Okay? We can measure it and we know. All right. So I spent my whole life saying, if it's trying to fling you off the Earth, okay, but the force of gravity is resisting back, by what force is it trying to fling you off? That upward centrifugal force subtracts from the gravitational force that the Earth is trying to put on you. It subtracts.
Okay.
So Chuck, what do you weigh here and now?
192.
I'll give you the 190 pounds, okay?
Okay.
So if you do the math, you run to Ecuador, you will not be 190 pounds. You'll be like 185 pounds.
What?
That's how significant it is. There are pounds less that you weigh for living on the equator than for living anywhere else, simply because the spinning Earth is trying to fling you off.
Nice.
Yes. Yes, it's significant. That's wrong.
Uh-oh.
Here's the deal. It turns out everywhere on the geode, you weigh exactly the same.
What?
It turns out that while you are closer to the center of the Earth, there's less mass pulling on you.
These two, principles, if you want to call them, they cancel out.
Yes, they exactly cancel. The fact that you have the whole Earth pulling on you, yet we're spinning,
right?
Okay, so you have all the mass of the Earth, but the spinning, so that makes you weigh more, but then you're spinning, that makes you weigh a little less, plus the Earth is a little wider, so that makes you weigh a little less. Okay, all of that.
You put it together.
It comes out in the wash compared to your weight on the pole.
Wow.
Guess who's not moving sideways at all? There's no sideways velocity. It's Santa Claus on the North Pole. So if you weigh Santa Claus on the North Pole, that is his authentic Earth weight.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
Which is only 322 pounds. So Santa's fat behind can walk down to the equator
and weigh exactly
the same.
Exactly the same thing.
Wow.
Check this out. You ready? Okay. If the Earth spins faster, if it spins once in 90 minutes instead of once in
24 hours,
then the centrifugal forces will be so great that you weigh nothing on the equator. You'll just float.
You just float?
However, Earth won't keep its spherical shape.
It will become a pancake?
Yes! Yes! This is the fun part! Oh my gosh! Okay, so the Earth will start flattening. As it flattens, the equator gets wider and wider and wider, and you are weightless out there. If Earth becomes this huge disk, what happens to the North and South poles?
Well, they just become where you put the record pole.
Yes, exactly.
That's
they're just a spindle.
They're just a spindle.
Right. They're right there in the middle.
Right.
Therefore, how much do you weigh?
You don't weigh anything.
And so everybody still weighs
the
same.
That's pretty wild.
It's wild.
Except you're floating out there.
You're floating out here, but no matter where you are on it,
you weigh the same.
You weigh the same, which is zero.
Right.
Because on the poles, there's no mass between you and the center of the Earth, because you are at the center of the Earth, because you flatten to a pancake.
So there you go, flat earthers.
Not everybody can be a robot polisher.
That's so cool.
Really cool. So clearly Earth can't be moving. Of course we're not rotating either. Everything is moving around us. So it wasn't just our ego that supported the idea that We are in the center of all things.
Center.
At the center of all things. It's not just what's happening with our ego. It kind of made sense when you thought about it. When you thought about it. When you thought about it. Think about it. Think about it, okay?